Okay, good morning, everyone. We will now start the meeting for March 20th. Land Bank Commission, we're over at the Mullis Center. Maybe we're going to continue to meet here. I don't know yet. So any comments from the public to start out the meeting? Okay, hearing none. We need to address the issue of the meeting minutes because I think most of us did not get it. So Aaron, I think did you get yours?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, anybody who did?
Everybody but you.
Lopez. Only Lopez. Anyway, some of us have not read it, but anyways, those of you who have received them, any comments or changes? We don't have Tim's comments, so that's really a big problem.
I'm sure it was.
So I guess we'll go ahead and approve the minutes. So Chair and Commissioner reports.
I'll go. I like going first because I get to claim all the group efforts. Went to a biochar class on locals that the Conservation District put together, and it was great. And I'm now certified to use one of their biochar kilns. I have a couple of my own, so who knows. It was very educational though, and they're really helping it along. It's good to hear. And the Beaverton walk, which was great. It was very well done. And yeah, a lot of times went on that too. I happened to read the monthly farmland preservation newsletter, which I get every month from the
State Farmland?
Yes, the State Conservation Commission. And lo and behold, there was a discussion about wheat in there, presented by Lincoln Borman. So it was good to see that it's getting out, and maybe there will be counties that have land banks. So that's about it for me.
It was about wheat.
Read.
Oh, wheat.
Wheat. No, I don't talk about wheat.
I was kind of like trying to track that.
Well, unfortunately, in the transcripts, every time you said REIT, it came out REIT. So people are gonna get the wrong impression.
World Forming Real Estate Investment Trust.
There's a lot of money held up in those.
Well, I'll follow up on that one. I would totally agree that the Beaverton tour was very helpful. I really appreciated that. Could have stayed longer, but it really gave me a sense of what's on the ground, what the opportunities are, what the needs are for kind of shifting the trail, and just how spectacular. So I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, me too. I also joined the tour, which was very good, and it reminded me that it's so important for the board to get out and see the projects that we're talking about on the ground, whether it's a project or whether it's a potential acquisition or whether it's an easement, whatever it is. I really think we need to be there and see the issues with our own eyes. And I also attended Doug's excellent presentation the other night right here of the Beaverton management plan, which was well attended by Chris and I and a number of staff members. And I'm so glad that he sent out the slides from that presentation, because I think that's a nice little connection for members of the board that can't be there to get a little bit more of the detail.
Yeah, I'll jump in and just second the idea that I really appreciate the time the staff takes to do those tours. I've been lucky enough to spend a lot of time with Doug over the last few weeks. Rachel, thank her for those tours. I did both sides. The public meetings were great. I want to thank Tyler and Peter, who I spent a day touring over there on Orcas with them. Just really impressed with the work that the land bank's doing. Doug took us up Mount Bend. We saw the proposed trail route. That's going to be spectacular. The work that's going on at Crescent Beach is really, really impressive. I thought the Judd Cove riparian project with the culverts is a really compelling project. So it's just, incredible staff, incredible work. I'm trying to get up to speed, so I appreciate all the time that staff has been willing to spend with me.
Anybody else? Hi, Judy.
Morning, sorry, I can't get anywhere for certain times now.
Okay, hearing no other comments from everybody, council update, Justin.
Thank you very much. Thank you guys for finding a nice warm space for us to meet in.
Yeah, for freezing last time.
So council update, I think one of the biggest parts that has a tangent to the land bank was I participated Wednesday in the conservation district event that happened here on San Juan, and it was the Washington State Conservation District, I want to say directors meeting. So there was probably 30 people from all across Washington State, many from Eastern Washington, and I think mainly because they got a free trip at the San Juans. But hosted by the Conservation District, and stop number one for that group was the Beaverton Marsh. And so they all got sort of the tour of land bank, interacting with Grange, interacting with Preservation District. Really cool. Everybody was very impressed. I got to ride in a car from a Board of Health meeting there and talk with one of the employees of the Preservation District who happens to have a garden plot on that, and she was super excited. And it's always great to see somebody sub 30 years old who's super excited about being out in agriculture and that kind of stuff. So I know she's under 30. I don't know how far, but anyway, she was really excited about her garden plot. She said she's an excellent weed grower. But looking to learn from others. So that was awesome. It was my first visit to that location, other than when we did the trip, the council trip, and we saw it from very far away across the marsh, looking across. So it was my first chance to see it. Really cool project. Totally looking forward to more ag integration into land bank work.
Yeah.
I'm neighbors with the Lum Farm. So also really appreciate having them. Eric and Amy have saved my bacon more than once with animals and all kinds of things, so.
And you got bacon.
And we got bacon thanks to them saving our bacon. Still on the council discussion is the levy lift proposition that will be going out at the end of April. I don't get to advocate for or against it, but I do get to remind everybody to vote in the election. It is not a levy that is going to produce anything fancy or exciting. It is very much a maintenance levy. So it is to help us maintain a certain level of service within the county. If there are folks who are interested in advocacy, I can direct you to the group that is in charge of advocacy. I will just leave that at that. And then a thanks to some of the staff here. We had a meeting yesterday to talk about some of the pertinent issues that we'll be talking about at this commission meeting. We will be doing a meeting regarding, and I'm sure Peter, somebody's gonna update us on the hunting proposition, but I know that there's a special meeting on Orcas. Is it Tuesday?
Monday.
Monday. Sorry, I got council meetings and on Orcas as well. Monday, there's that meeting, so I will be present for that meeting to listen and support staff as is necessary. And there is a council meeting on Orcas, not that I would expect any of you to be there, on Tuesday, 10 a.m. And I think that's the bulk of my report.
Will that hunting meeting be available via Zoom?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. We probably already have the links.
Yeah.
What a great idea. Mhm. Okay. Thank you, Justin. I see now our next one is Preservation Trust, and I see Mark Johnson is available.
Hi, Peggy. I'm Mark Johnson. I'm on the board of the San Juan Preservation Trust and chair of the Conservation and Acquisition Committee. I'm filling in for Vicki Edwards, who usually provides the partner report. I'm accepting the Oscar on her behalf. So the big news is we're getting close to closing on the Mount Bend West property. In fact, it's due to close at the end of this month, 11 days away. It's always nice when a project is acquired on the date that it's projected to do so. And as many of you have visited the property, I think Chris just mentioned it, it's a wonderful connection between the West Side properties and Lime Kiln and the existing preserves that the Land Bank and the Preservation Trust already own. So it'll provide a great trail access as well as habitat for wildlife and so on. There are several additional steps in the transaction, the overall transaction, that are yet to come, including acquiring a small property from the landowner to the north, which will allow us to have legal trail access between the various preserves. And also, of course, a conservation easement that will be granted to the land bank in the future. But this is the big step. This is acquiring the property is the big deal. So we're really excited to bring this one to fruition. The other item is our co-stewardship director, Kathleen Foley Lewis, spent Monday afternoon on Turtleback with Tyler Goodman, your Orcas land steward, and with the San Juan Preservation Trust volunteer, installing boxes for western bluebirds in the oak habitat off the Lost Oak Trails. And, you know, we're really trying to encourage the return of bluebirds to Turtleback, and this will aid in that process. So we thank the Land Bank for its contributions to this effort and this activity as well. That is my report, Peggy.
Great.
Any questions?
Okay.
Happy to answer.
Any questions? No, but great work on Mount Ben.
Thank you.
Very exciting. Okay, moving along. Director's report.
Very early.
Yeah, we are.
Pull that up, Aaron.
Yep.
So at the last meeting, when I was talking about projects, someone suggested that maybe I should actually bring some slides so you all knew what I was talking about. So here we are. We've got two suites of things happening here. I'm gonna go through what you see on this list. We do have other acquisition projects to talk about, but that's gonna be done in executive session at the end of the meeting, because we're still at that very early stage. These are much further along. So this one is the Coho Addition project. So you can see that blue, and by the way, these maps were generated by the Preservation Trust because they initiated this project and applied for salmon recovery funding to make this work. And then at a certain point, it became pretty clear that since it's nestled right by our preserve on the other side of the creek, it would make sense for the land bank to actually own this and add it to the preserve. We've switched over and we're going to be taking the acquisition to its conclusion. So you can see we're still, actually, we have not had the survey completed, right?
Yeah. Field work.
Okay, and we're doing a cultural resources assessment of this area also. But it's gonna be roughly 6.3 acres now is the latest kind of measurement. It's a great addition to the preserve just because it takes in the other side of the creek and it allows us to manage that area and control any access to it, et cetera. If we can go on to the next slide. Maybe. Yes, no. So, okay. Can we get
can we go to, the slideshow? Is it in slideshow?
Yeah,
Okay, that's probably fine.
computers just apparently going, so.
Well, that's the previous slide.
Okay, there we go.
There we go. Okay, so the purchase price is $450,000 for the 6.3 acres. The grant is for $521,000. There are some ancillary costs. But as you can see, we're going to more than cover the cost of the project through the grant. So this will be a great one to do. We're anticipating wrapping up all of our due diligence and getting to closing probably in October, something like that. Okay, any questions on that one?
It's a beautiful property.
And there is the outflow of Cascade Creek into Buck Bay, just for reference. Okay, next slide. The Demetric Conservation Easement and Trail Easement Donation. This is on Lopez. We've been working on this one for quite a while now. The green area you see outlined there is our channel preserve. So that's, we acquired that back in 2017. And there's a trail that goes down to the beach to access the waterfront there. There's also public tidelands that go far to the north. So it gives you access to those public tidelands. One of the things we'd hope to accomplish with the neighbors, frankly, is to get trail easements along the beach, because currently you can walk if the water's below the mean high water line. It's in the tidelands and that's public. Above that is private property. But obviously there can be issues with people walking that and straying onto private property. And so our hope had been to get trail easements where we indemnify the property owner because they're allowing public access to use their property. This would be the first one of those we've managed to secure, and it's not just a trail easement donation. They're also donating a conservation easement on their property, which could be subdivided. So they're wanting to keep the property as it is, and I think you can go on to the next slide. There's a building area, so those buildings will remain as they are. They can be rebuilt, but that's about it. And otherwise, the property will be kept in its natural condition. So we're working our way through this. I think this one is on John Kane's desk now. We've had some revisions from the donor, and I'm hoping to wrap this up in the next couple of months.
So that's High Bank waterfront.
Yes.
So all those people are really up
Yes.
pretty high. So exactly what does that open up down on the beach? So I don't really know where the high water mark is.
Right. So if you were down on the beach,
Mhm.
there's roughly, I don't know, 20, 30 feet of area that's above the mean high water line before you hit the base of that bluff. So it's pretty tempting for people to want to stray into that area. And this is a way to protect the landowner from any kind of liability concerns if they are willing to grant that. It's up to them. It's purely voluntary. We're not purchasing trail easements, but this is the first one. Hopefully there'll be more.
It's basically from where the driftwood starts
Right.
to the base of the cliff. So it is very tempting. Otherwise, there are a lot of rocks you have to negotiate. So.
Okay, so next one. This is a sale. Yeah, actually, I'm skipped over one. I'll come back to the Buck Park BLM in a minute, but this is one we've been talking about for a long time now, where the National Park Service has been interested in purchasing part of our Fraser Homestead Preserve. So everything below that dotted yellow line is what we're talking about, and we can zoom in, you can see them, the American Camp Unit, it would be added to. So it's this southern part of the property that's believed to be where the Lyman Cutler homestead was, where the pig was shot.
Oh, wow.
So it has historical significance. This has been caught up apparently, unfortunately, in all of the things that are happening within our federal government. The money has been budgeted for making this acquisition, but the Park Service it has not been released to the Park Service to actually conclude the transaction. We're right at the end. The appraisal is complete. Everything is ready to go. Basically, we got the governor's office to okay the transaction, along with the county council, which is another requirement. And here it sits. Our understanding is that the Park Service is trying to work through larger acquisitions and work their way down to smaller ones. But I am not going to try and predict what might or might happen at the federal government level. So hopefully it'll come through. We don't know.
The existing trail is on the southern parcel, isn't it? Isn't that where it comes out onto the road?
The existing trail, the American Camp Trail goes all the way to Friday Harbor in various forms. So it goes along our property, all the way to the top of the property.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm just trying to identify where it comes in from the woods and touches the road, and I think it's on the southern parcel.
Where you can kind of
Yeah,
faintly see
I think-
a trail.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just curious as to why the parks wanted these parcels.
I think it's because of the
The historical
historical
component?
significance, yeah.
Okay,
So if this happens, they'll be paying us 1.28 million.
If it doesn't, it means that we're becoming part of Canada.
And if it takes 3 or 4 years, does the original deal go through, do you know? Or is a reappraisal going to be necessary?
I think because we're so far along, we shouldn't have to go through the reappraisal process, but your guess is as good as mine.
So some of that property is also leased currently to Shepherds, right?
Correct, so.
And how far down,
if you
and how
look-
does that impact that?
Yeah, if you look on the right, where it says the ag lease area. So that's everything on the east side of the road.
Right.
And it goes down to that dotted line, basically. We'll have to construct a fence. Currently, they have a use agreement with us so that they can graze animals all the way down to where you see the tree lines start at the
Mhm.
southern edge, kind of halfway or 2/3 of the way up on that southern lot. But we'll have to construct a fence to keep animals out of that area.
Okay.
Unless the Park Service decides that's something they want. I don't know. That'll probably take another decade.
may I ask another question about this? We don't ever talk about this preserve. And the whole section on the west side, I tend to forget about.
Right.
I'm sure we don't forget about it.
Yeah, that's an interesting property. That was the first thing that was bought from Mary Jane Anderson. So we referred to it as the Anderson parcel. It's about 40 acres. It was open at one point. It was more agricultural. It was purchased back in, I don't know, 2002, maybe something like that. The idea was not necessarily to keep the property, but it was to maintain the view corridor. That was the primary objective of that acquisition. So it could be divided, that area is R10, so there could be 4 houses on it. We've talked off and on over the years about a potential resale. Never really gotten there, and I'm not sure we want to get there, quite frankly. We really have to talk about it. I think at a minimum, if we were to try and resell that property, we would want to reduce the density on it. But I think if any consideration along those lines would really require the commission to wade back into it and fair amount of detail. At this point, it was old field, it's got some nice forested areas, some nice wetland area on it. It's a beautiful piece of property, really. So there it is.
We'll make it a goal to go see it someday.
Great.
Thanks.
I do think it would be interesting, at some point to kind of revisit the whole discussion of resale. Because we haven't talked about that for a while.
Sure.
It is complicated, but sometimes, I look at a piece and I think, really, do we want to continue to own this? What makes most sense? And even, thinking about reducing density, given housing needs, is there a way to do something that doesn't reduce or eliminate while still protecting certain features?
Yeah, and of course, our constraint here is that if we're going to sell property, it has to be for market value.
Right.
And so once we're selling property for market value, it becomes very difficult for affordable housing groups to use it for anything along those lines. So it's just tricky, a tricky spot there. Any other questions on that? So going back to the Buck Park and Crescent Beach boundary line modification, that's one I neglected to include in the slide deck. I am sorry. By the end of the day yesterday, I thought I was done, but I wasn't.
You're done in.
Done in, kind of, yeah, it was a long day. In any case, that's one we've been working on for quite a while too, with the idea being to take the off-leash area, which is in the very northwestern corner of Crescent Beach Preserve, and transfer that to Orcas Island Parks and Rec in exchange for wetland areas of the southern boundary of Buck Park. We get the natural area, they get the more developed area. They're able to provide water to the dog park, which we cannot do because of the issues with East Sound Water Users District and the way they operate. So it's a win-win. We've had an appraisal done. We can't just do a switch because of the requirements that we get market. We have to get market value for anything we let go. So we've had an appraisal done at both properties. It's basically a wash. So we'll be constructing a transaction, a mutual transaction between the parties. And that's also something that I need to talk through with John Kane. Everything is more complicated than it looks.
And does that have a posting requirement?
Have a what?
A posting requirement where it has to be out in the public for a period of time?
We don't have to list it or anything.
No, I meant like, in the record, in the paper, how our meetings do. I didn't know. I just think.
I don't know that we have an advertising requirement. We have to go through the county has a property management ordinance. So to dispose of surplus property, you have to run through the steps. So there'll have to be a public hearing around it. And one, the Land Bank Commission doesn't have to have a public hearing. The commission has to make a recommendation, which happened some time ago. But for the council, they have to hold a public hearing to decide that they A, want to sell the property, B, how they want to sell it. Do they want to auction it? Or do they want to do a direct sale? And so our recommendation will be to do a direct sale, which will basically be a transfer, but structured as a mutual transaction. If we do a trade, one of the provisions in that ordinance is that we would have to, actually, I'm not sure it's that ordinance, maybe the Land Bank ordinance, one or the other. We would have to go to court and have the court make a decision about a trade. We prefer not to do that. So we'll structure it in a different way.
And I'm sorry, Lincoln, how many acres are we talking about?
It's very small. Peter, is it
Less than-
two,
Something like that, yeah, it's just a little postage stamp.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
so each area is 0.2. It's the same
Yeah.
area
Does
for
it-
each one.
Represent a legal parcel? Or is it? it's a
No.
Boundary line adjustment? type of
No, it's
Situation?
just gonna be a boundary line
Okay,
modification.
thanks.
So basically an older wetland.
Yeah, it's pretty wet.
That's what we're getting.
And that's all I've got for this part of the meeting.
Okay, we are early. I've got some ideas, things we want to talk about later. So Tanya, outreach and communication.
Outreach, let's see, we've got the March Turtleback March hike that Marilyn's coming on tomorrow to talk about at the next meeting. That she did.
I'm not gonna say anything anymore.
You're not gonna say. Let's see, I would like to put out there now that we have our two new commissioners. We have the communications committee that helps inform, or subcommittee that helps inform, outreach. And so if anybody would like to join, or if we want, I can send an email who's currently on it out to the group. And if you have interest, we can discuss that. I think we can't have three, you can have 3 commissioners. Is that the right amount? And then other things that are coming up, let's see. We've got a deer hunting meeting that I think, everybody's been preparing for on Monday. There's lots of great information. And then that's the 23rd. That'll be at the Orcas Fire Hall starting at 5, and it's a Zoom meeting. I sent you all the, event listing, so if you want to register for the virtual piece, you can. Or you can show up in person. And then, let's see, in April, we have the art on the preserve starting again on San Juan, as well as senior hikes with the Mullis Center. And I've been in touch with the Orca Senior Center. They're interested in doing it again. And Margot will lead the first one for the seniors here at the Salish Seeds Nursery. They'll get a tour of the nursery, and then I think we'll do a seed sorting if they're interested, maybe later in the season. So, okay, so events are picking up, and the annual reports moving along. And that's about it. It's spring.
So the hunting discussion is 5 o'clock?
Yes, starts at 5.
A lot happening, okay.
Any questions or
What's the
comments?
date for the Salish Seeds senior tour?
The senior tour? Oh, it's it's a Monday. I think it's the 3rd Monday. I'll get you that
Oh,
date.
okay, the 3rd Monday. Thanks.
Yeah, and they're a series that happens monthly on that same Monday, 4th Monday, actually. I think that's what we settled on.
Okay.
Monday,
Very nice.
maybe the 27th. Mary,
Hi. I do have a question. This sounds bad. I have earplugs in. Did you say you have to pre-register for the Zoom part of that
Yes.
meeting?
please.
And I'm just wondering if there's a reason. I remember a few years ago I tried to attend a land bank meeting via Zoom, and I didn't realize that I had to pre-register. And I wonder how many people. I know you put it all out, but I wonder how many people realize that, and if it would keep people from being able to access the meeting.
It shouldn't. It's very quick. It's basically your email address, and then you should get LinkedIn. Did you miss that part?
Yeah, I missed it.
Okay, it's a pretty simple process. You just put your email in, and then you get a link, and then you go in. It's mainly so that we can keep track of all the emails, so we can respond to folks afterwards. So we have.
Okay, so it could be done at the time.
And anybody,
the time.
anybody can
Okay.
register. It's I have it. You can enter at any time. So yeah, you could register during the meeting and show up.
Okay.
Thanks.
So,
And everybody knows you have the fact sheets on the website about hunting.
Well, there's fact sheet. Well, we have our deer hunting
Yeah.
information page.
Yes.
Yes, well, hopefully. I mean, I shared it to the social media groups, that people were having questions,
Right.
and there will be more information at the meeting.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
but it's a good point,
Yeah.
whether people track that. But how much can you tell everybody? So Lincoln, so is that, are you finished with your?
I'm finished unless
report?
there are more
Anybody else?
questions.
So So we're way ahead of schedule. Lincoln, what would you like? We could take a break right now. I have some ideas that I would love to have a chance that we can talk about. Kind of going back to the discussion of subcommittees. and-
We can, yeah, we can go, let's do that first. And I'm just asking a question. I know Bruce Robinson was gonna come to do a presentation, but I haven't talked to him about it. So we may not have that lined up for the Overmarsh.
Lincoln.
Okay, we
Yes.
saw him a couple.
Yeah, he's
weeks ago.
this is Charlie. Can you hear me?
Hi,
Yes,
Charlie.
Hey there, homesick with the kid again. Yeah, Bruce is planning to show up. I told him he was up at around 10, so he should be
Okay.
early, but
great. So let's go back to what you want to talk about and then we'll.
Okay, so we kind of briefly mentioned subcommittees. And there's always the official subcommittees of Finance Committee and Outreach. But I personally think that there's other, whether they're formal or not, subcommittees. So Tim and I were talking about it. There's the climate subcommittee, so there's that piece of it. The partnership, so there is the group of people that are part of the Preservation Trust and Land Bank Partnership Committee.
Ag?
And
Isn't there an ag committee?
there's an ag committee. We don't meet very often, but there is a committee on that one. I would also say tribal, what's going on with tribal issues. So different kinds of things that come up that kind of get addressed by a smaller subset. So I wanted to talk about that and see if people, if we want to have an official list, how do people want to sign up to participate on that list? So it's kind of a little bit more, an opportunity for people to sign up.
So first of all, the rule for these subcommittees is that we can't have a quorum.
Right.
So 3 is the maximum.
Right.
And if we can just run through the ones that we have that have been operating, then we could talk about the theoretical ones if you want. So for the communications and outreach, Amy Trainer and Anne Marie are the 2 people who are currently on that. So there is room for another person if you desire to do outreach or help us with outreach. That would be more than welcome. For finance, Marilyn is our finance officer, and Anne Marie is on that one as well. Very, very high functioning subcommittee, I would say. And for ag, Tim and Peggy are on that one. So there's space for another person there. For the San Juan Preservation Trust Subcommittee, this is one, we meet quarterly to talk about issues with the Preservation Trust, joint projects, etc. So Peggy and Mary are the 2 people who are currently slotted for those. So if you're interested in joining one of these, there's room in each one for someone else. Let me know, we can have a conversation, or you can just say yes right now.
Well, I'd like to throw my hat in for the Preservation Trust committee. That would give us a commissioner from each island, and that's Chris would prefer to do it.
Great.
No, it might be a conflict.
Yeah.
Since I work for
You're an
him.
employee, yeah. So that would interest me, if possible. I'm interested in it.
We know.
I know you know.
I'd like to join the finance committee.
Great.
Hey.
Oh.
Said no one ever.
And you mentioned the climate committee, that's actually a county committee. And I am the liaison for that, so I just go in and say the land bank is working on this and this. They meet every other month. And I've been somewhat remiss as to reporting back to the land bank. To this point, the Climate and Sustainability Committee has been working on updates, policy updates to the comprehensive plan. that part was done, they're focusing now on the climate action plan, which would be closer to something like regulations, so giving input to the county council on the directions they may go. As we drill down a little deeper, we haven't had a meeting, the next one is next week. So, if I can,
So is that the group that recently held the meetings on Orcas that dealt with the Deer Harbor Road and the West Sound and rerouting that road?
Not directly that committee.
Oh, okay.
That was that was a specific
Special project,
project out of
okay.
the environmental stewardship.
Yeah, that was a really well done meeting.
Some of the same people are
Yeah.
involved in that. And I also serve as the council liaison
Yes.
to that committee, so we have sort of a double connection there.
so we should know everything, but
We should be, we should have this climate crisis solved
yes.
after next Thursday. So just take that off your list. Don't be concerned with it.
Love to take it.
So, I mean, I think it would be really great as part of our agenda, so it's almost to have a report out from our subcommittees. Because I would really appreciate hearing more about what's going on, with each of these, and then
So Peggy, your other suggestion was something around tribal.
tribal, yeah,
And so that's up to you all and what you think you want to do. I mean, obviously, this is a subject that's becoming more prevalent in everything that we do. So that might be appropriate. We're doing cultural resource assessments on our properties.
totally.
We're interacting with the tribes on our management plans. And so, and a variety of other things, the hunting, hunting proposal for Orcas. So more and more we're just having a lot more interaction with folks, which is fantastic. If you want to have an opportunity to talk that through as a commission in more detail outside of this meeting, certainly that would be fine.
Well, I found that just in this last meeting, there was all sorts of things that, I hadn't been aware of. So I think, in the very least, I think we all should be informed about progress, because it seems like there's a really great progress. And, also process, because now we have Frankie, who, our cultural resource person, things need to kind of go through her. How do we best kind of navigate that? And how do we as land bank commissioners really stay informed? And I think the hunting one is a big one, so that we can also interface with the public and say, oh yeah, I'm aware of that and all of that. So, I don't know, what do folks want? In terms of, is there interest in a tribal subcommittee group? What would people like?
Well, it seems as if I think it'd be nice to have a committee in place, although they might not be active all the time. But some of the things that we might consider that committee working on would be, we had a long discussion about the Beaverton Marsh management plan, and whether some of the components within that plan, particularly as related to tribal issues, should exist within a broader policy or discussion area that the land bank adopts, and therefore doesn't have to specify within each management plan. And if we were to try to develop something like that, it might originate in that type of a committee.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know.
So that's a vote for.
Well, I'm trying to think, what's the committee gonna do? And that would be something that I think, deserves some attention. For two reasons, both to formalize our, entire, new thinking about how we interact with tribes, and also to take some of the burden of including this information in each management plan off of the stewards who are delegated to do that.
Has this group had a chance to review the tribal engagement framework that lives at the county level?
We did see it at
Maybe
one
some
point,
time
probably
ago.
be really helpful. to
I
look
would
at
think
it
that
again.
maybe a first step before even forming a committee would be to bring that back.
Right, I
And I
think so.
think Frankie's on the call. Frankie would be the expert on explaining that. And I think before coming up with any other discussions, probably reviewing that first. will be the
Right.
first step.
Yeah,
And we did have Frankie come and do a presentation.
was that last year?
I can't remember when that happened,
Yeah, I think
but
it
we
was
have it,
last year.
it was recorded.
Mhm.
So
But now we have new
we
people.
can provide you with the recording if you want to go back and have a refresher.
Well,
Yeah.
it's also not a static thing, so, you know, there
Right.
might be more things for her to share a year, you know, more
Mm-hmm.
into the role.
I think so.
You want me to start with, I'll find that recording. I can send you all the link and then the information from the county.
Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Start
I agree with Marilyn. I think the idea of having a policy, and Peter, you're working on policy updates, right? But policy that addresses how land bank proceeds around tribal issues
Mhm.
that the management plans referred to makes a lot of sense to me. That there's a process that all the stewards on all three islands are following. And it should include, you know, checking in with Frankie and
Mhm.
I mean, I have some ideas about the policy, but I like your idea of not doing it in each individual plan, but having a policy
That we all fall
that
back
we
on.
all fall back on.
And it's not static because, I mean, this is evolving so quickly,
Yes.
in a great way. So that, you know, bottom line, it's good news. And we all need to keep up. Yeah. Which, and along those lines, the stewardship team. At some point, I think it'd be really great to get a report out on, the progress you guys are making when it's relevant, makes sense. Because, you know, these kinds of policies, I think are really applicable to all of us and, yeah, so I'm just curious about how that's going and at some point, whether we do it today, or next month.
Specifically, how the progress on the policy and procedures manual.
Oh, yeah, that lovely topic, yes.
Yeah, maybe next month. Be good.
Yep.
Okay, good. Okay. Hi, Bruce.
Hi.
So I think, I guess another thing that I've heard about from some people, actually Mary was the one who brought this up about new land bank commissioner orientation.
Right.
And we've never really come back to that. So, just curious to hear a few thoughts about that one, so everybody can hear.
Well, I think that is a good idea to have an orientation, so we can schedule that with the newer land bank commissioners. I don't know how sitting land bank commissioners feel, whether they feel they need to have a refresher on this or,
Reorientation.
yes,
Personally, I think reorientation is a great idea.
okay.
Just because, well, I don't want to say any of us are long in the tooth, but some of us have been on the board for a while. And I think it's a good idea, now that we have a little more experience and know which questions to ask, to re-engage the whole board personally.
Okay.
So what does that include? I guess that's what I'm wondering, you know, like, what is the orientation?
Well, in my view, roles and responsibilities are sort of preeminent, so that we all know what we signed up for. Well, I just think it's good to have a refresher because I know a whole lot more about, my supposed role than I did when I agreed to do this. And it would be an opportunity to ask questions about how the organization, how the staff commissioner works, how the committees work, you know, what role. Because I think it's somewhat complicated because we are a subset of the county. And so we're not functioning like a typical board of directors might function, where we have an executive director to whom we delegate authority, and then, you know, it falls on from there. It's a really different sort of situation, and I think might be worth reviewing at some point.
And it's different from the typical advisory committee role that the county has for other areas, because you do have an administrative duty around the budget.
Right. Yeah. We're a hybrid.
We're different, yeah.
Exception.
I think that would, hopefully, then the new commissioners could, of course, weigh in as well as what they think they need to know or, you know, how they would like to see it, I think.
Roles,
Kristen, yeah.
responsibilities, you know, issues around quorums, for example, how we can, how we can communicate without getting ourselves in trouble. I mean, just the basics. And we had already had the budget introduction, which was helpful, so.
Yeah. Mary, do you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I think that covers it all. I think I'm having a bit of a slow start due to other things, but just communications, like who to go to with questions, the structure, the roles and responsibilities, as Marilyn said, just a little bit of front loading what I'm stepping into and how we function as a group would be great.
So we'll schedule that. Sounds like the whole group will benefit. from
Okay,
it.
I was thinking, I am planning on doing the acquisition criteria presentation this month, next month, meaning next month. I tried for this month, but it didn't happen. So in April, I was gonna do that to talk through our general criteria and, specifically around, agricultural projects too. I think highlighting that a little bit. But we could do a commissioner reorientation so we can prepare something for that meeting for people to have in advance.
And have the new commissioners gotten the binder that has the statute and everything?
Not yet, I'll bring those,
And you,
next month. I haven't received them, gotten them back from
Okay,
Brian and.
yeah, I mean, that has so much information in it, it's kind of
Yeah.
important.
We've all read it.
Yeah,
Every page,
yeah,
every page,
Yes.
yeah.
I refer to it.
Okay.
Sure.
Good. Well, thank you. That would help. I think that's really helpful. So I think now we're scheduled to take a break. Is that right? Pretty close. So we'll take a 10-minute. How about let's take. Okay. So next thing on the agenda is Stuart's report, and we're gonna have Bruce do a report out on the Overmarsh Farm.
Yeah, and I hope that everybody had a chance to read the report that Amanda wrote. She does a much better job than I do. I'm here mainly only because I'm trying to give her a little space and a little time. She's got so many duties and it's like someone's got to give her a little relief. So I would be better at answering questions about the report. I can help highlight a few things if that is necessary, but I'd like to start by answering questions if there are any questions about that.
I have
Okay,
a question. Peggy and I had some time, you were out there and which was great. I'm wondering about the area that is going to be deer fenced completely. Do you know size of that or
say
that, how big the deer fenced area is going to be?
Well, that's probably 10 acres is my estimate. I don't know. Yes, and it is pretty much complete. Charlie's done a great job at
Charlie's there.
in closing it up. Yeah, he told me he'd be here on Zoom. He's done a great job closing it up. I put a temporary fence across the front with a couple of entry gates. I've raised all the stock gates so they're 8 feet tall to keep the deer from going over those. And so we should be deer proof at this point.
Great.
And the other day, we got there and because it wasn't quite enclosed, there were 2 deer in there and they could not get out. So I had to go open one of the stock gates and herd them over. It took a little bit of effort, but I think because they couldn't get out, they also won't be able to get in now because we're closed. Yeah.
Charlie, did I see your hand up?
Nope. I need to remeasure too, but I think the estimate of around 10 acres is close.
10 acres.
Wonderful.
Yeah, that's a lot of space. It looks from the parking space, it looks like we're filling up, but we're just touching the, we're just beginning, you know. And the lower area tends to be really wet, so we're not sure that might be more used for chicken tractors and things of that sort to keep that mode and to diversify our production. But the upper areas are all very, very fine. We're able to.
So do you want to kind of delineate for everyone, assumptions around, like, land bank is covering the costs for the fencing and the labor on that, the water, so, and other things that you guys are taking on and what you're responsible for, and how that all plays
Right,
out?
well, any internal infrastructure is up to us.
Right.
We have, for the, I mean, according in this, report, we talked about the irrigation that we put in, and we put in pretty hard in irrigation. It's not on surface, most of it's underneath, and we're trying to use drip irrigation everywhere. And we built a tool shed, and we're going to bring in a what we're calling an administrative shed, which will be our communication center. So as people come through the gate, there'll be a bulletin board, and there will be a variety of things in this shed. One being a food share situation where people, if they have access, they can put it there. And then if it doesn't get used right away, it'll go to the land bank. Land bank, it'll go to the food bank. Unless you guys are really hungry.
Pretty hungry.
You're not far from the food bank. Yeah, so that's another piece that we're putting in. For hard materials going in, we're hoping to actually take down the interior fence, just because if we're deer proof, we'll do that in a month or so. Just need a month to check it out, make sure we are. Yeah, and then I'm trying to think of what else, you know, we're hoping this year to do some plantings in the grazing area, which is to the east of the garden, community garden. And we'll be putting in trees that we collected, and Chris has maybe said he's got some oaks that we could put in there, so we'll be doing that. Rather than grazing this year, we're actually not going to put animals in there while we're trying to put the trees in and get them protected, because it's going to take 5 to 10 years before there can have any exposure to animals. We'll fence them in the time being, but yeah, I'm trying to think what else.
I have just a couple questions. Is anybody thinking about sun shading this year?
About which?
Sun shading structures for any of the plots for the summer when it gets really
Well,
hot?
you know, we would probably leave that for, if it's an outdoor plot, for the individual participant grower to make that decision. The greenhouse definitely will probably have some shade cloth on it. But outside, we'll probably make that available to people. They can put up a structure if they wish.
Yeah.
But we haven't made a specific plan for anything at this point.
And my second question might be for Charlie. I noticed when I drove by last night, I've never seen a light go on the well.
Oh.
And there was a light there, Charlie. Does that indicate something?
Call Charlie.
Yeah.
Well, I assume it's just an in operation type of light.
Yeah, there's a set of lights, and they all indicate, I think there's 5 or 6, indicate whether it's running or the tank's full or the solar is too low. So there's green ones and red ones, and yeah, that's normal.
The red one.
Say it again. What was that?
The red light does that mean it's full?
Yes, I believe the most common red light is full.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's nothing. The one reason I ask is that our community well is just past there, and there are lights associated with it, and I'm supposed to be paying attention to those lights. So I won't pay attention to these lights. It's being taken care of.
But there's a low well sensor too if the water's getting too close to the pump. Shut off.
Thank you.
Just a heads up for you, Peggy, Rachel's now on, she's next for the Beaverton Marsh.
Okay. I have a question, because I've not looked at the lease agreement for a while. Who's responsible for subleasing for grazing at this point?
We had Rob Walden's sheep on there. He came on midsummer. We actually didn't require a payment for that, just because we felt like she was helping us mow. Unfortunately, got off a little later than we would have expected and hoped.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why we're not going to graze again this year. We want to make sure we don't have a parasite buildup. But also it's the planting that's important. We haven't really made a determination as to how we're going to lease for grazing. I'm wondering, and this is a speculation on my part, but I'm thinking that we may within the people that are participants growing, we may find the people that might want to graze. I've got a little interest in miniature cows called zebu, and it's like, wow, this would be a perfect space for these. They could rotate for different pastures in that 8-acre pasture area. But we're not there yet, and we'll probably start with small livestock such as chicken tractors and things of that sort, and then expand from there. But we really haven't, if that's something you would like to see us pin down, we can work on that.
I should look at the lease agreement again. I haven't seen it for a while, but no, I don't, I just had a question about
Yeah.
it.
I'll write a note.
To add a little more on that, I think we've kind of established if the Grange is willing to collaborate with whatever farmers and growers on the property under their insurance and all things, that's up to them if they want liability to be on the farmer, or that farmer needs their own if they're requesting their own lease, and then we can work on that, but otherwise it's falling under the Grange.
Okay.
Yeah, to expand upon that, we are going to have one commercial plot this year. We originally were going to have two, but one person pulled out because he just realized it was going to be too much fun. And we are requiring that person that has a commercial plot to have some insurance.
Okay.
I have my last question. I was curious about how dense planting you're planning to do in that eastern pasture.
In the eastern pasture, that the one that's not fenced yet, or the one that's just east.
The one that's just, isn't that where you're planting trees and
Yeah.
not where Rob's,
Yeah,
I'm just curious as to whether you're trying to develop an actual silvo pasturage.
that's the
thing.
concept. Yeah, we're
Okay.
planting on contour,
Mhm.
and we'll run irrigation on contour. And we don't have a set number of trees at this point, but we have a variety. We have a lot of alder, some big lake maple, and a variety of others, which I am at a loss to remember what they are. But there will be potentially in the hundreds of trees there, but they'll all be in line so that mowing can happen if we need to, and other uses can be incorporated. I mean, if we decide that grazing isn't appropriate any longer, we could then develop it for agriculture. So, yeah.
And
Just trying to-
just a reminder to everybody, including Bruce, that we'll need a plan for that project, and the concept's out there, but we haven't seen any specifics yet. So that'll be an important piece.
Hey, thanks for the reminder.
And I'll just chime in that I find it so inspiring. So anybody who's not been out there, in the other islands, it's really wonderful to see what's happening.
And just to tag on to that, we just talked in our last meeting a couple of days ago about having an open house for the public, but we'll make a special invitation to land bank commissioners.
Well, we just barge in.
Well, I've appreciated you just come over and touring.
Yeah.
No, it's great.
Yeah, it's really great.
I have another one too. I saw you have a couple of test plots. Is that just local, or is it through WSU, or?
When you say test plots, I'm not sure what you mean.
Oh, 2 trial farm plots, 2 small scale.
Right, and what she means by that are commercial endeavors, yeah.
Oh, those are the 2.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
One was going to be wheat. One fellow who actually was the former owner of the bakery here, wanted to do a plot of wheat.
Sure.
mainly to get seed, so he could do a larger plot, but he decided that was too much for his life right now. The other person is going to do a variety of vegetables that she'll sell at the farmer's market.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that you are keeping track of the water. It's very interesting. I'm always been
Yeah.
curious.
Well, that's been one of our challenges is, of course, right now, we have way, way, way too much water. If people aren't aware of how much, there's a lot of clay in the soil and the water tends to run down the hill and we have a hill above us, so it runs down the hill into our area. And we're having a challenge of figuring out how to evacuate that. We were thinking about putting a curtain drain right below the parking space. But when we got the plan from the, we were contracting with the Conservation District. And when we got the plan, they were talking about a 2.5 foot deep, 2 feet wide trench. And it was like, this would be such a mess. Especially now during when the growing season is just going to begin. We can't do that now. So we put it off. And Charlie has talked a little bit about maybe other ways that we can mitigate this problem rather than going full tilt on a curtain drain. We also contacted a fellow in Bellingham who has a farm called Inspirational Farm, who does farm design, permaculture farm design. And he had lots of ideas, but I think the amount of land forming we would have to do to follow it might be prohibitive. Back when we were first beginning, we actually brought Doug Bullock in from Orcas, and he looked around and said, "Where's your running water?" And we said, we don't virtually have running water on the surface. And so he said, well, I don't think I would do anything. So it's sort of like, do we go full hog and dig big ditches and putting gravel and so on, or do we do smaller jobs, smaller mitigations, smaller trenching, possibly maybe doing a low piping? There is one area that's super wet. It's right to the west of the garden spaces now, and we won't be able to use that for gardening. So I'm advocating that we have a bit of a wetlands in there, or a wet environment where we maybe have pocket ponds all the way down the hill. Possibly use that for irrigation in the summer, or possibly bring in just appropriate types of vegetation that will keep the water clean and before it gets to the marsh and give some habitat for wildlife. It's just not a formal plan at this point. We've kind of skipped that area in terms of agriculture at this point, but it's something that we may need to do something in that regard.
Great. Like, we need to move on to the Beaverton, but thank you so much. And great job. Good
Thank
job.
you. Thanks for your questions.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you later.
So, we're gonna move on to the Beaverton Trail and management plan update, and we have Rachel.
Oh, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I am off-site, obviously. So I just have a few things to update you on, and I would like to understand what your questions might be or information you'd like to have moving forward with these monthly meetings. So this month we had our open house. We had Chris and Marilyn there. It was very well attended. It's one of the most well attended events I've been to in all my time in the county for this kind of a thing. We don't know the exact number, 60, 70, maybe more, a little more than 70 people. And overwhelmingly, people were happy with the project, very excited for it. Most people wanted to know, when do we get to walk on this new trail? But my favorite comment of all was from one gentleman, Pete, who said more benches. And so we definitely will be incorporating those, particularly on the ends of the project where they're closest to the um, parking areas. But definitely that will be a feature. We'll have, hopefully have something down on the wetland crossing. And then as far as timing goes, we are on schedule, close enough. It's we keep getting delayed with certain things. It's a tight schedule. It's really hard to press people to meet our timeline, but we're pretty close, so not freaking out quite yet, but definitely a high level of concern going along to make our timeline. We've started the permitting phase. We have had pre-application meetings. We've had pre-application submittals and some actual submittals. So we've submitted for the APE, the area of potential effect. And we have heard back from WashDOT. I'm not clear if we have to hear back from other agencies on that. And today we're submitting the SEPA to the county, SEPA application, and that will have to process in advance of some of the other applications that we'll be making. We're hoping for a determination of non-significance there. We'll see how that goes. And I've taken a little bit of a look at the budget for the construction budget, the projection, and there's it's going to be tight to get as much done as we want, but I think that there's places where things will work. There we have a lot of people interested in volunteering. We heard that during the open house, people interested in volunteering for parts. And so with our consultant, we're looking for opportunities to get that. And, but we are far away still. May is when I believe, let me double check. May is when we're going to get the 60% plans, which will be, yeah, we're looking to get those in early May, and that will make that will allow us to do more permitting work because we'll have a clear idea of the exact scope of our project.
Hey, anybody have any questions so far? I think we have a lot of questions, but I'm looking at you. Why are you? I know you.
Well, I just have one comment. Rachel, the other day, might have been at the management plan meeting. You mentioned that it was possible that this would be let not as a single construction contract, but as a number of different contracts, which was interesting to me. I just thought it might be beneficial for you to mention that to the board.
Yes, so briefly, the construction of this project is going to have to happen over a long period of time. It's not that it's that much work, it's that we have different seasons where different parts of the work can happen. So for instance, the forestry work we need to do, some culling in the forest, some removal of trees, that should happen in the mid-late winter so that it is not disruptive to migratory birds and other and damage other plants that might be in their growth period. So, and that work will have to be done delicately and carefully with an eye toward preservation of the existing flora. So then there's also some work on the trails that can be done with small pieces of equipment and maybe potential local people who are experienced and qualified for doing trail work. And then the wetland crossing will have to happen in August, maybe September, and it will be a little bit different in terms of the contractor that will be doing that work. So there's potential for 3 maybe for different contracts. We don't know how this is going to look yet. But in my mind, this is what I'm thinking, that we would end up with a phased construction, allowing the opportunity for multiple contracts. I haven't even had the discussion with WashDOT with how this will look, but I am not aware of any reason that would be a problem. It would, I'm
I'd
sorry,
say
what was that?
that just gives us so much more control over those different elements as well.
Yeah.
And particularly when we start thinking about the forestry elements and those things, you know, that we can have a lot more, instead of that being a subcontractor of this large corporation, if we can kind of pick and choose who's going to be doing that ourselves and have a lot more comfort about sort of what that looks like. I mean, you read a contract and it should be pretty clear, but at the same time, it still would be lovely to have folks who kind of know the islands, know how we like to get things done and have it done really well.
So I'll just, so this is obviously a really, really complex, involved project on a really tight timeline, and I appreciate how hard everybody's working on it. And from the Land Bank Commission perspective, there will be certain obligations for us at some point. And I realize it's, because there's so many moving parts, that it's gonna be hard to try to project what our commitment's gonna be. But anything I think we can do to kind of keep looking at that and maybe revisiting it, so that we have a sense of where we're on the line. And I think we would be on the line in many different ways, but from a budget perspective, and, you know, at some point, because we'll have matching, grant requirements, but then also just in terms of, public outreach and public perception and all of that. And I think it's really exciting, and I think I wish I could have come to the meeting because it sounded like it was a really positive and wonderful. But when I was walking out there, I was struck with the quality of the trail that's out there right now. It's fantastic. And understanding that now with WashDOT involved, we're going to have different grades. And so there will be pulling up of trails that are already there and reconstructing. And so there, you know, I guess probably be some public outreach that needs to happen around that, and just, you know, many things. But so I think as much as we can do to keep us informed. So there's our match, but then also, you know, we haven't really gone back to talk about it. It's way too early, but what's our long-term stewardship commitment on this? We're gonna have pilings in the ground, we're gonna have boardwalk, we're gonna have all those things. What can we do to really project that? So, you know, a lot of it's a moving target, but at least start talking about it a little bit more without adding too much more work to your already very, very, very full plate. Anybody else want to chime in? I think it's really exciting.
Yeah.
I would encourage the commissioners and anybody from the public as well to send me via email questions you might have or concerns, especially if they might require a little bit deeper dive into answering them. And then I can prepare things to answer specifics. But your comments about the long-term commitment, certainly we can provide a projection of that when we get closer to the, probably closer to the 90% level, because we'll know more of the materials and we'll know more about the slopes going down to the wetland crossing. And, you know, we should definitely be providing that as part of the stewardship plan on the property.
Okay.
Well, I'm sure that in contracting, things like DBE requirements no longer apply.
What?
I I don't-
Disadvantage business enterprise requirements.
There was a DBE requirement for the consultant contract, which was executed early this year. Actually executed in September of last year. That's what I meant. But earlier, the uh, offer went out. The title of what it is when you select a consultant, it slipped my mind right now. But there is a DBE requirement on our consultant. I don't know about the construction going forward. I'm assuming you're talking about changes in the administration at the federal level.
Yeah, I'm just curious about contract law changes that may
Yeah.
possibly beneficially impact this project. For instance, I recall something about projects not being contracts, not being allowed to be broken down into smaller amounts so that you could avoid particular contracting law requirements. And I don't think any of that kind of stuff. I'm just curious. I'll ask you about it later. I'm just curious if any of those kinds of
Okay,
things.
yeah, I don't have any answers for you right now, but it's good to know that you're thinking about that and we can look into that.
Any other questions, comments?
I'll make one comment, and that is, it's kind of along the lines of your public outreach. This is an exciting project. Community, that meeting, people were highly in support. But it is a level of infrastructure that is not common for the land bank. And I think as we do the public outreach, I'm hoping that as a commission, part of that is to say, we seized an opportunity. This is kind of a one-off. This does not represent where we want to go in terms of providing infrastructure and recreational opportunities elsewhere. Because it is unique, but I'm just worried about that sort of slippery slope and sliding baseline, and setting expectations with the public about providing higher levels of recreational opportunities. So I just hope that we can kind of nuance our messaging about how great this project is, but we're staying true to our mission around preservation and protection.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I really appreciate the way you.
That's a really good point.
Because we have the overlay of the federal requirements is really what's coming to play. And so.
I do have a couple responses for Chris. I agree that in particular with the width of the trail and the gentle slopes, that this is a deviation from standard land bank practices, but not a lone wolf. There have been other properties where this kind of thing has happened. As far as the marsh crossing, which is probably the biggest part of the infrastructure and concerns going forward that you might have, that is going to be as gentle as can be. But this was back at the beginning of this preservation project, or where the land was bought by the land bank. This was the plan to put in a marsh crossing. So that is a long-standing plan, and I want to be careful about thinking that we're doing something really far outside of what we see on land bank properties, because this is a unique property to begin with. And anyhow, but I appreciate your comments and I agree.
I think we've all talked about this, but I think one of the difficulties has been that there was not a lot of recent commission level planning for this project when it arrived. And I think we've all sort of learned the lesson of how we would prefer to see this type of thing develop. So I hope that in the future we have a different way of evaluating and moving in different directions. Well, I can certainly see Chris's perspective that we are providing a wonderful benefit for the public to enjoy that we may not be able to or wish to provide in the future on other properties. And I think we need to just be aware of that. In any case, it just needs to be more discussed in this public forum. That's all it has to do.
Okay, any other comments? Thank you very much for showing up, Rachel, and helping.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay, I think now we're moving into future agenda items.
Actually, Doug, do you wanna take a minute to?
Oh, yeah, you keep.
Look, not a whole lot to say. We're sort of in midstream at the moment, getting comments from public, and we got some good comments from Frankie as well, who's on the call. And we'll be making revisions and changes as we go along here. I think there's some discussions that'll be great to have with Frankie as well on some of the elements. We haven't received a whole lot of input. I'll just share one kind of amusing thing that came in where someone saw the plan, was looking at it on their phone, and kind of like freaked out about the trails, and that it was going to cause all these impacts and privacy issues. And then as we kind of investigated this a little further, we found that they were looking at the property boundary and thought that was the trail. So this is an easy one to resolve and kind of amusing for everybody involved, I think. So, yeah, and appreciate that Tanya helped get some notification out to neighbors, dropping a mail, just making sure that we're getting sufficient sort of input coming back in from the communities. It's set to close for public comment on the 25th. We'll kind of take a look at things at that point, do some revisions and sort of figure out what the next steps are for that.
So in terms of some of the comments that Frankie offered, and I think there was discussion about maybe kind of holding off a little bit on, which I don't think everybody got. Did everybody get those comments? No. To kind of hold off on moving ahead on that until we kind of have more of a consistent approach. Is that true?
We haven't talked that through.
Okay. To be continued. Okay, we'll come back to that. That was specifically about the cultural intersection. Okay.
But I think that's still probably accurate. I mean, we're need to coalesce comments, have some conversations internally with commission and things before we move on to the next steps here. And hard to say what the next step is going to be exactly until we get to that point. So.
Hey, Lincoln, you're up.
All right, so future agenda items, as I mentioned, next time, I'll be doing a presentation on the acquisition criteria. And we'll also be doing something on reorientation for the commission. So those are two coming up next time. And then we have the other continuing list. I think for the organizational structure, procedures, and priorities, I would see coming back to the commission with an update on how all of that's going. Maybe in June or July.
And do we have budget next month?
Time is passing.
The budget?
Will we have a budget presentation? No, we don't usually have one in April.
We'll have a quarterly,
Yeah.
we always have quarterly budget updates. That the annual budget cycle tends to begin in July. So for the commission, the objective is to settle on a budget at the September meeting. Sometimes it's October, in advance of the council, because then ultimately it has to be ratified by the council in their annual budget. So
But we have two budget amendments. This
yeah,
Share as
you're
well.
right. You're right. We may trying to think about which. I'll have to get back to you.
Okay, well, we got plenty of time to talk about it.
Yeah. That's all I had. If other people have something, otherwise we can go on to public comment and then the executive session.
Okay,
I just wonder if Tyler or Amanda has anything to say.
good idea.
Pretty good, that's right.
Tyler, Amanda, any comments? Amanda?
I will keep it brief so you can get into your public comment period. On Lopez, I mentioned this in the stewardship report. I have been working on kind of a pre-application for the Washington Capital Heritage Program, which is a grant for capital improvements to the Wat Mao Head Chadwick House structures. I met with the Historic Society Museum Director Amy Frost yesterday, and I'm going to meet with HistoriCorps next week. We have a proposal from HistoriCorps to lead volunteers in kind of stabilizing the house and other structures. So we're just going to review that and kind of refine the budget. And I'm hoping to submit that application in April. And I'll be able to come back with kind of a better idea of what we would submit in a final proposal that would be due in June. So hopefully we can talk about that more at the April Lopez meeting.
Good. Is Amy willing to kind of step up and kind of co-sponsor that application?
No. They have their own building that also needs maintenance, and we talked about their partnership level is they want to support interpretation. They've written Chadwick history interpretive panel for us, and will continue to advocate for the project and be a support in that way. But in terms of grant administration, they don't have the capacity to do that.
Okay. Okay, Tyler, anything you want to add?
No, I don't think so. I just wanted to say hello. I know I haven't been a super familiar face here, but I hope to change that. So, hi.
Is he going on the March? Are you going on the March, Tyler?
I will be present at the March tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
All right.
Okay. So I think what we're doing now, any public comments?
I have one.
Hey, Judy.
Hi. First of all, I'm just so impressed that, you guys could like get on the ferry and get here. And I mean, even the people that live here, I just want to commend you for your, efforts to support the land bank. And I tried to make it to that Wednesday night meeting because I'm very interested, but I had a conflict. So it's interesting that Chris made that point, because when I read early on, I did read some of the stuff around this trail, because it's, I've watched these things develop over the years. And in my mind, I was thinking, oh, this is similar to the Crescent Beach boardwalk, or this might be similar to the boardwalk at Weeks Wetland. So if it's not, and maybe those differences, I'll have to delve into, I accept that responsibility. But I don't know, that might just be, when appropriate, the land bank does what needs to happen. And I certainly understand the requirements of federal and other government grants. So that's my only comment.
And Kathleen Morris is on too.
Who's that?
Kathleen Morris is.
Oh, hi, Kathleen.
Well, Kathy,
Kathy.
but my name is formally that.
Yes.
I just want to say hello to Mary. I'm super excited that you're on the commission. I look forward to talking to you about stuff like that. And I thought you mentioned like what's a good way to get up to speed. And I thought a key way is to read thoroughly the county code. chapter, whatever, section 2, 1.20. And then one of the purposes, which I've pointed out numerous times at meetings, is in that code section 2.120, part C, it says, in order to maintain private ownership and maximize the use of available funds, the Land Bank Commission shall first consider conservation easements or other non-fee interests as the method to achieve the purposes of the proposed acquisition. And so I point that out because, as you know, like driving around our West Beach neighborhood, we recently had a meeting with John Kluseth for current use, and he informed us as of September 2025, the back tax obligation is only 4 years now, which makes it much easier to remove property from this working conservation program that the state established back in the 70s. And as you know, developers, that's not a big deal. If you've ever sold land to a developer, they just say, fine, we'll pay that, because they just pass it on to their ultimate buyer. So I really strongly encourage conservation easements on these working farmlands to maintain that in our county. It's just something that has been overlooked. And I feel like there's a lot of good examples, like the Blue Mountain Land Trust. I know that's a different format, but they do a lot of conservation easements, and it's a very successful conservation organization in Walla Walla. So the other thing is, like, Peggy, you mentioned earlier about like sectioning off something for affordable housing, and Lincoln's comment was that, well, once somebody goes into affordable housing, they can no longer afford it. But affordable housing is an easement that gets put on property. So, you know, you're the county, if you could work through and make sure that if you did want to remove some property for affordable housing, maybe those easements could be placed on it, and then that would reduce the price, or it could be bought by one of the organizations like the Lopez Land Trust or the Opal or whatever's on Friday Harbor. So those are my comments. And also, I'm really excited about what transpired at the Egg Summit that happened on San Juan Island. We learned a lot from Helen Attow about growing green manures, as opposed to and just different ways that she incorporates growing things for fertility, growing her own fertility, as opposed to bringing in things. And you guys manage a lot of lands, and that was brought up often during our meeting with John Kluseth, is that we can't always produce a product, that we need to enhance our soils, and that there's value in that. So I think as a county, you know, you guys own a lot of property, the Preservation Trust owns a lot of property. We need to really work together to show that focusing on the soils, focusing on that kind of improvement does add value and conservation for our county in general. So anyway, welcome, Mary, and I'll see you guys later. Thanks.
Good. Thanks, Kathy, and thanks for bringing that to our attention about the Coupa change.
Yeah,
It was
huge,
huge. Big deal.
I think that's
A
huge.
big deal. It is. Yeah. Okay, with that, I believe, Lincoln, we're gonna go into executive session. So,
you need to read the.
oh, yes. And where is it? Sorry. I don't have it open in front of me. Go ahead, you can read
Okay,
it.
the purpose of the executive session is to discuss the acquisition or sale of real estate as per RCW 42.30.11 1B, meaning when that discussion could affect the price. So that's what we're going to be talking about.
Okay.
New recording.
Okay, coming out of executive session, and no decisions have been made. And
we're coming, so
Prompting?
Peggy, I'll just prompt you here.
Yes, please.
We're coming out of executive session. We're not concluded with that, but we wanted to announce that we're extending that executive session for another 10 minutes, at the end of which we'll conclude the meeting.
Okay. But we're not gonna be in executive
Yes,
session.
we are
Oh,
going
yes,
back in.
okay. Okay, so we're going back in.
Yes.
So.
During the meeting?
Okay, we are now adjourning the meeting and everybody's gone.